that's quite, it's not uncommon, isn't it? And that's sort of what that's not. You have experiences that, often that might be unresolved issues, etc.
It's just one thing too many.
Yes. Yeah.
One thing you can cope with, but once you go over that precipice, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, that's that idea of resilience, isn't it? Which is some people's resilience has been worn down by life itself.
Yeah.
And life
don't take too much for it to go then, does it?
That's it. And
for
life,
any of us and all of us.
Yeah.
And life is a way of, because life just is, it does what life does.
Yeah.
Life just goes on and it will beat you in the process.
Yeah.
And if you don't find ways to either navigate it, you end up, like in some, because I don't think because it's not like it comes with a manual.
No, it doesn't.
Of any sort. So
No.
it never does.
Definitely.
It just.
Are we recording this?
Yeah, we're of course.
Edit the name out.
No. I've got this on. I know my stuff, bro. I know my stuff.
I just know where I've got it in my head of recent, but it's just got in my head.
No,
you know when things
what?
go in your head, you can't get them out of your head.
No, you know what?
You wake up at night time.
No, let me tell you.
3 o'clock, you wake up. You have it on your head.
What did I do? Let me tell you, the first podcast I ever recorded my own personal podcast. I had I think there was about 4 to 6 of us around this room. So literally we're just chopping the fat as you do.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that was coming out was just outlandish. It was outlandish.
Yeah.
Me being me, in the excitement, I went home and did, the preliminary, put an intro and stuff and whatever and then just put it up. Next morning, I get a message. Dude, you need to take that thing down. You need to take that thing down because I think people will actually, I think they can recognize my voice.
Well, you got your name there as well.
No, but that's the thing. I think in this case, because it's one of my boys is like sort of like he's known in his community and what have you, and his views, as right as they are, some may have been
Well, the problem about, isn't it, is about. They often talk about context.
Yeah, it is.
Actually, and when you take something out of context, then it can be misconstrued to mean something it's not. And it's like, when you're having a face-to-face conversation and you say something, because it's been a part of the whole, you know where that person is coming from with what it is. They're usually trying to explain a position, an argument, and so forth. But it is now, I don't know much about social media, but that's part of that sort of how social media can also affect people's mental health, because you are very mindful of what it is you may or may not say, because it's captured in perpetuity, isn't it?
Yeah. And also because we are encouraged to, they will tell you, hey, do your long form and then chop it up into bits. Let me tell you, in long form, everything is in context. It's like the right now we're recording this, and if somebody listens to just a sound bite, they may think the storyline is different from what it is that we are here about in this case. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we have Miss Corinne Moss. Do you know what it's always been there? I'll say when I came to SACMA, actually, even prior, I think I have known you for probably prior to even SACMA. I mean, at least seeing your face, your face around the community and stuff. And I always say there are some people who, who make SACMA feel like home. And people like Shirley and Corinne, you're one of them. I don't really care much about David.
You mean he's not a homemaker? You are.
No, we love him.
Not calling him a homemaker.
No homemaker. There is no homemaker. No, what I'm saying is, for me, I think the sisters in the office actually make it what it is. Because it's like, I think there's something about SACMA where it's like, there are people who will talk to you. And it's not like that I'm just talking to you and it's just a superficial conversation. It's a deep conversation. I remember one thing that you said, which I thought was hilarious. You said, I think we were talking about stuff about studying. I think about it's like, I have studied so much. I don't think I want to do anymore. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I thought that was very telling, because then, no, not telling, but I thought it was interesting because some of us, we are some of those people who will study until the cows come home. But when is enough? Enough?
Yeah. Well, I think, Corinne, you respond to that. This is your statement.
Yeah. I reached a certain age and I decide. I think sometimes in life, it's part of knowing yourself, knowing your limitations.
That's it.
I'm very big on knowing my limitations.
Yeah.
I know what I can do and I know what I can't do. I know what I like and I know what I don't like. You know, I've lived long enough to be able to do that. And I reached a certain age and I was like, okay, yeah, I've been on courses and I've studied this and done that,
Yeah.
And I think there was a feeling of, we're going around in circles here, because
That's true,
how many times can you change the name for something that has the same content? And I was like, that's it, I'm done. Yeah, I'm going to focus on doing the job that I'm doing.
Yes.
I don't need to know any more about A, B and C. It is what it is.
Are you saying then that is this an age thing then?
Possibly.
You know, that sort of sense of, you know, if you hang around long enough, it comes round.
Yeah.
It really does, yeah.
But at the same time, that's not precluding that you're not open to new ideas and new experiences.
Of course, that's something completely different. You know, another thing is people don't listen. They don't know how to listen.
That's it.
Because their ears are just kind of hearing something that their brain receives in a different way, and to them it is, oh, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do that, you know, you can't do that. I never said that I didn't want to learn things. There's different types of learning.
That's it. No, that's
so is it
true.
then, because I mean the way in which I heard that phrase about I'm done with learning, I
wasn't done with learning.
No.
I was done with training.
Yes.
Training, yes, different.
Training, and I think I was saying done. When I say learning there, I'm talking about nearly a sense of formal sort of education, because this is just a take I've got on it. So we can hear things differently, can't we?
That's it.
So we hear things differently. What I heard was that sense of going on a formal course. That's the last thing I want to do, is go on a formal course where you might sit an exam, anything like that. I mean, I am done with that.
Thank you.
But what I am not done with, and I'm open to, is to have new ideas, new thoughts, maybe consolidate some thinking there. I'd like to think curiosity is still there. We just remind ourselves all the time that, you know, we hear on our podcast there, we're talking always about mental health there. And I think curiosity and being open to new things, especially when you get a bit older, and we're not old, but as you get a bit older, there can be a sort of, you can nearly begin to get yourself an expectation that actually all the chapters are filled now. You've done your chapters. But the chapters aren't.
No, they aren't.
There's lots of more chapters to come, and there's nothing yet written on those chapters.
Yes.
That's it. Because one of the things, actually, I was talking to somebody this morning about this whole idea. I mean, like, we're talking about learning. I think, for me, I'm at that level where I think a good conversation with people whose opinions I value seems to be more important than probably kind of sitting in a classroom with somebody kind of throwing words at me in the hope that something will stick in the process. I find, why I value these conversations we have either in the office or within, the confines of the podcast, is the fact that you are getting to see not just the level of that, I would say probably the intellectual capacity that we hold as a people. And I think sometimes we don't really get the opportunity to ever say the thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like...
Yeah, I know what you're saying, because I think actually, first of all, that bit there about having a good conversation with someone is actually really quite powerful, isn't it?
That's it.
Because there's a connection which comes from that. Yeah. Whatever that connection might be, there is a connection. And you know, humans are social animals, so social interaction is important. And if you can, on a subject or on a range of subjects, have that conversation, you know, it just gets your brain ticking. It makes you emotionally feel better. And I'm with you on that one there, Longley. You know, I've been very privileged to be party to lots of conversations in this format, and I have learnt so much from the other people in the conversations.
In the conversation. And hence why, you know, like, because I know both of you guys worked within the education spaces at some point.
We have actually worked a lot together.
It's true. I've had so many previous lives.
Yes.
Phoenix.
So we worked together at Sheffield College back in around 2001-2 time.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. We did. Yes. Yeah.
That was after me, because me was 1999 when.
Yeah. And then we worked together at the sixth form.
Sixth form college.
That's for many years there, wasn't it?
Yeah. Good number of years.
Yeah. So it's a good while. Small world, maybe.
It is definitely. Actually, it is a small world. So you started off in education, and then how did you end up at SACMA though?
I didn't start off in education. I started off working for the local authority.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to work for the housing department of Sheffield City Council many moons ago, back when the housing department was based in the old town hall.
Oh,
that's where we
the
were.
old egg box.
Before the egg box.
Before the egg box. You go back that long. I've only been in Sheffield since the egg box. I came and went.
Yeah.
So you're a big somebody.
I am. And then I left the local authority, went back to education. So then I decided, do you know what? I want to do a teaching degree. So that's in the days when it was 4 years. So I went off and did a teaching degree, and I came out of that. And then I used to work with, oh my goodness, I forgot the man's name. Oh, he was lovely. Black guy who did the access course and stuff. And
Danny Machangela.
No.
Not Machangela.
Anyway.
No.
Basil. Was it Basil?
Basil was because Basil's still around.
No. Anyway. So, got into education, worked a lot in schools and things, and nurseries, and then I went. I think I applied for a job, got a job at Sheffield College, kind of by chance. Ended up working there, and college is different to schools and community work and stuff, and it is really, really good. There's a thing of people would say, you don't want to work with teenagers and things, and to be honest, they were okay. They were fine. That kind of middle kind of, teens and things. They were always okay. Yeah. I enjoyed working with all ages. Did adult education as well. So, yeah. Donald and I worked on a project where we were kind of helping students who were African and Caribbean to reach their full potential. Yeah.
Well, we were trying to engage we were trying at the time to increase the participation of African and Caribbean young adults in a range of activities. and particularly vocational sort of activities, because we were talking downstairs about vocational activities, and there's lots and lots of opportunities in vocational activities. A large part of it, though, is about the placement. Because and we want to have parity of esteem between the academic and the vocational, but sometimes people would have a slight downer on the vocational, as if it wasn't as good. It was different, and it can actually have very many different pathways to it. I mean, I walked past Sheffield College when I go to the train station all the time, and I'm walking past their building places there where the construction students are, where the engineering students are, and so on and so forth there. And now you see a greater ethnic mix than you did before. In the past you didn't, which means therefore many of these sort of trade skilled sort of jobs there, then you wouldn't get that many, African and Caribbean people doing those jobs. And yet for many people, they're the jobs which actually it gives you the means to be your own boss.
Yes.
You've got a skill there. Well, I say that because my brother was a bricklayer. And my brother was a bricklayer, and he was a bricklayer till the day he died. He's a couple of years younger than me. And from the age of 15, he was a bricklayer.
Yeah, because it's a very I won't say lucrative, but it is.
Yeah.
I think a trade, which is one of the things that we don't really seem to encourage our young people, especially as people of color. We want like those jobs which like the social work and the nursing and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to sort of like the hard graft work, sometimes of course you see
if my brother was still alive now, he would say he was the second black bricklayer in Nottingham. So you're going back to about 1976. And he would say, well, I know he said it to me, that there were not many more after him. Which is quite something, isn't it?
But I bet it was always in work.
It was always in work.
Yeah.
It was always in work, but it was always in work because it was good.
Yes.
That's the key. I'm not saying you had, I'm just simply saying it was always in work because it had to be good. Because if someone in a job like that we know that if you've got a electrician or a plumber who's good, you tell somebody else, don't you?
That's it.
Yes, you say, well, he's got a good plumber. You can rely on him. You can rely on whoever it is there. They can do that. I mean, it's like Errol's painter and decorator.
Oh yes.
So lots of people have got lots of skills.
Yes.
And lots of and again back to that thing there about how do you find yourself in work? Learning about work is when you're setting out as a young adult, it's quite a difficult thing, isn't it? To actually, what do I want to be? How am I going to do what I'm going to be, etc. There, and it can take a bit of time to work out. This might be the line I want to take.
It can, but I mean, I think that, and I stand by, because a lot of us, we have a very good work ethic, a very good work ethic. And is it how we were brought up? We were brought up by people who came here to work who, worked hard. And we're not used to, not having people around us who didn't work. So that is what we know. And that gives you a certain level of skills. Because you see people, your parents, your aunties, your uncles, bigger brothers and sisters, juggling things, juggling this, juggling that, and managing.
And
as a youngster, as a child, you take that all in. But it's not part of our psyche to say, oh, do you know what? I'm not going to work.
There's
nowhere to go with that. There's nowhere to go.
Now, this is the weird thing, especially for us who come from other parts of the world. There was this train of thought. I remember people will come, they will move here to the UK and spend a few years, and then when they come back to my country in Zimbabwe, they will say, you can earn a living without even working. The government will give you money. you know. But no one ever said that there is always a drawback to that kind of way of doing life, because I've seen this in my community, my people, and I've often kind of spoken about. I think I mentioned this thing about the heavy. There's a heavy aspect of we drink a lot.
Okay.
As a result, I mean, like I was recently I saw a clip saying that the 5 top African countries where alcohol is consumed, and Zimbabwe was in that list.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, I think the stories that we told each other, for people who were here coming home, was usually kind of skewed, and also there was like this, we pour a little bit of sauce. But both of you guys were born in this country, or you came in?
Yeah.
I asked you a question. So, did you grow up West Indian or Black British? That's the question I asked you.
Well, there was no such thing as Black British then.
Do you know what? And I was thinking about that. Yeah, because it came over like a couple of weeks, and suddenly we were classed as Black British.
Well, I remember going to an event back in the 80s. It was, and there was a guy there. His name was Bruce, I remember, and he said he was Black British, and I sort of struggled with that. And I just come back from Jamaica. Yeah. First time I'd been to Jamaica, I was 27, and I'd gone to Jamaica, and my response to Jamaica was I enjoyed it, I loved it.
Yeah.
But I definitely didn't feel Jamaican.
Yeah.
That was an absolute. I know other people have a different take on it. My brother had a different take on it. He felt very much Jamaican.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel Jamaican. I felt I was something other.
Yeah.
Which, in a sense, wasn't helpful. Because I'd spent my entire life feeling other.
Yeah.
Here, I go to Jamaica and it's like, you come from foreign. And so it wasn't a helpful thing. So how I had grown up to that point there was a sort of like an assumption that I was what my parents and everyone else around me was, which was, for me, it was everyone was Jamaican around me.
Okay.
So that's what I had a general sense of. That was my being as such. Go to Jamaica and feel different there. Come back, and then you have a change in the way in which people begin. I think the language, the discourse begins to change around race as such.
Yes.
Yeah.
And different things start to come in to that sort of discussion as such. And you and I talked when you came back from Zimbabwe this summer.
Yeah.
And I've said it a number of times on this show. In our conversations, one of the things coming out of it was I said to you, well, I'm going to die here.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I always knew I was going to die here.
Yeah.
But now it's a definite.
It's a definite.
No, I think that's
good.
Yes, it's going to happen.
Definite.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. So what about you, Corinne?
Do you know what? I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm a bit of, I'm happy to live in most places.
Yeah.
I've got a British passport, always had one. My parents had a British passport. You know, technically they were British. We are Jamaican. I'm happy to be Jamaican. I love to go to Jamaica. I love it. I'm people think, oh well, because I always say, oh, do you know what? I really I don't like the cold. It doesn't agree with me.
Yeah.
So I'm Jamaican in that sense. Snow, overrated. So overrated. What is going on? It really doesn't look that nice. And it's cold, it's wet, and it's bad for your health. Now, fair dues, those that like it, but it's not me. Yeah. It really isn't. It's not in my DNA.
Yeah.
So, happily live in a hot climate.
Yeah.
And it's like Donald, the people we grew up with, old-time Jamaicans, and we understand them. We understand them.
If you Clive Murray does that. He does a show where he's in Jamaica, and then he goes to Cuba. But in the first few episodes when he's in Jamaica, he's talking about growing up in Bolton. And he's grown up in Bolton, and at the weekend, his uncle would come round to his house, and his uncle and his dad and friends would be in the front room, and it would be a little piece of Jamaica at the weekend. Now, when he said that, I could picture that Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
Because that was the Saturday afternoon of the late 60s and the early 70s there.
Yeah.
Noise and everyone's talking about, and everyone's talking about some place. And you're thinking, and you just grew up with all these places there. For me, it was places, a roadside, you go by roadside in Islington, Top and so on and so. And you had it in your head as if you knew these places there. They were the places you grew up with. And so for me it was too. I do maintain this. For me, I should have gone back if my parents could have afforded it when I was a child, as opposed to an adult. But going back there and seeing it and seeing all those places there, it was powerful because it took me back to those conversations because they were a sanctuary of conversations, weren't they?
Yes. And what else made it very real? It's like, we were brought up on Jamaican food. I love Jamaican food. I love it, from bammy to breadfruit, all of it. Dumplings. That is our food.
And when did you get served then, your food then? So do you get served after your dad?
Do you know?
Because my dad always got his food first. Yes, he always got his food first. Terribly gendered.
That happens everywhere.
But he used to work on a Saturday morning at a foundry, and we'd all be hungry. And Mum said, "You can't eat till Dad come."
Do you know what?
And Dad would always go to the pub on his way back from work.
Come on.
And we said, "Come, Dad, we're hungry now." And then he'd arrive, and then he'd have his hard food, and then he'd have his soup.
Yeah. Do you know what? My parents are still alive. And my dad was such a cook. His older sister taught him how to cook. So, do you know what? My dad would cook for us. And serve it. We all ate at the same time.
See, my dad couldn't cook. So we used to always think, please, Mom, don't go away. She went away the Christmas of 1970 to Jamaica. And I remember that one really well because it snowed that Christmas. And unlike you, I quite like snow.
God.
Englishman, and he cooked for that 3 weeks. And we were thinking, Mom, come back. But you know what? That just on that story about going back. I used to teach a course years ago, a tourism course at college, and we used to work out. We got an exercise which was to work out how many weeks of work would it take the average worker to get 2 weeks away somewhere. Now, for me, I then did it for my parents. They came to Britain in 1956. It took 13 years for my parents to save the money to go back for 3 weeks. My dad in 1969 and my mom in 1970. And they could just take themselves. They couldn't take the family. So all that hard labour which they put in, and they couldn't get back. And my dad used to tell me a story about when my granddad died. His dad died in 1961, and he said, "Donald, I knew I couldn't go back. I got the telegram saying Dad had died, and all I could do was buy myself a bottle of the cherry brandy." Remember the cherry brandy? He said, "I got a bottle of cherry brandy, and I sat on the doorstep, and I drank to console myself because he says that I couldn't go back and bury my dad." And it's those sorts of hardships which, as you get older, get a sense of your parents, what they went through, which also affects you as well. Because if you look on your own life there and raising children, if you've got something like that, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect how you feel yourself there, and how you're going to be able to, raise and help your own children. So there's lots of beautiful memories of that period, but also it's quite a hard period.
It was a hard period.
I tell you, it was cold as well, wasn't it?
I swear, cold. Yeah. Every winter was cold. They talk about, I make no apologies for being, controversial here. Talk about global warming. Global warming, really? The best summer here was 1976.
Was it?
There.
But I'm going to dispute that with you. I'm going to dispute one thing with you. No, I completely agree with 1976, but if we're making the point there, the houses which we lived in then,
oh my life,
were cold.
Oh, cold.
Honestly, they were so cold.
Icy cold. Frozen pipes. What?
Yeah.
Wasn't there any central heating?
No. We're talking about central heating.
Paraffin lights.
Yeah, paraffin lights. Kerosene.
Gosh.
So when did the whole idea of central heating come
into play? That's a 70s thing.
Yeah.
When people started to... in the 70s, we moved from the house we had, which was old 2 up, 2 down.
Oh, okay.
And I was talking to someone the other day about this, and they were talking about when they were growing up, and they had 2 rooms. The family had 2 rooms. And that's where they lived. And the house had 5 bedrooms, and there were all the people living there. Now, my parents had the same. It was 1 room they had lived in when they first come, and they had 2 or 3 children. And then they got themselves this little house, 2 up, 2 down. And then the council compulsory purchased it, knocked it down. And then we moved to another house, which was a detached house, which had hot running water, bathroom, an inside toilet. The first big experience. I was 10 years of age. And I remember my brother and we got to the house on the day we moved, and we thought, we're going to have a bath. So we turned on the water. No hot water came straight, because you had to have the boiler. Yeah. You're not going to like the boiler, because the big thing those were. Remember? The matches,
oh my goodness,
they'll blow your head off.
Children.
Yes.
We used to light the gas stove.
Yes.
We were given light the gas. I don't know how we survived. Because the things used to blow up.
Absolutely.
The raw gas was there. And, oh my goodness.
So we just had a bath in the cold water. We were that excited about the idea that you'd had an inside bath. It had a bathroom, because it used to bath, you bath in front of the fire, and what we used to do. So those physical differences to today. I mean, we started off talking about learning, and then it's looking. I made that point about age there. You do a lot of looking back. On your life there, and I think, in looking back, you've got a warmth as well. The real warmth of memories there, which really they sustained you as well. Because I think otherwise you've got to be trying to get a balance, haven't you? Which is, there were things about your life growing up then which were really, really quite hard. Yes. But there was also things about your life then which were incredibly sort of like supportive, and the warmth which you got. I mean, when you used to go out when you get a bit older, you're about 12, 13, you're out on the street there, and you think you're a big person, and someone would walk by, and if you didn't actually sort of like acknowledge them, and there are no telephones then. By the time you got home, your dad would say, "Yeah, so you're a big person." No. And everybody and every black community in this country, you go to any, Wolverhampton, Huddersfield, Nottingham, that's the joke people will still make.
Hey, let me tell you,
there's a respect for older people. All older people, because we were brought up that older people could tell you what to do.
That's true.
They had that responsibility, and we would listen.
That's true. But it's the same. It's the same even in the African. I mean, like I've spoken about this, about the fact that if you were down the road and you were wilding out, by the time you got home, and neither did we have a phone.
Yeah.
You suddenly get home and get leaks, because of something you said, and you didn't even know you said it. I know personally I received so many beatings for something I'm supposedly said, in the playground, and it got home. I don't know who took it home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I really, our experience then as a people, I basically seem to translate across oceans and
I think there's lots of similarities there. I mean, and I say similarities rather than that they are similar. Similar, because similar is like a whole block.
That's it.
Because time and place and whatever will have influences on it. But there's many similarities to it there, and I think and you can see it with recent arrivals now. I had a situation when I was working where it was about 15, 20 years ago, and a young man was having trouble at the college, and at the sixth form, and he was 17, and he'd just come over from Ghana. He'd just been sent for by his mother, and his mum had been in Britain since he was 1. And he was having difficulties. Him and his mum were having difficulties, and that reminded me of that generation above us who came over. And yet there'd been a 30-year-old gap. I hadn't really sort of that had come out of my consciousness, this idea of people being sent for. And this was about in the early noughties there, this young man there, and he's sitting in my office saying about his had these problems, etc., etc. I just got sent for, etc., etc., etc. I was thinking, I remember this. Very, very commonly.
Very much so. Children that were left in the Caribbean with aunties and grandparents and things, brought up by them. And then, some were sent for to come and live. They would have younger siblings that they didn't have a relationship with, let alone having to be parented by people they didn't,
they didn't even know.
Know.
And then you throw it into today's sort of like scenario where you've got, again, for Corinne and I worked where we worked, the sixth form we worked, and it could be anywhere now in Sheffield in Britain, where you'd have youngsters coming from all over the world. From places which have experienced all types of difficulties, trauma of all sorts there, because that's what they would bring as well. And therefore there is that need to, and I don't know if it's recognised enough, and it's young people are supported enough, because it's not just about them as a child and as an individual, but their family trauma as well, which is ongoing. And we know about intergenerational trauma as well. Well, many of these young people are experiencing it now.
But that's it, because
it's a reality, very much so. When I was at school, I went to a middle school, and literally within 2 weeks, people from Uganda, Mr. Amin, had told them they had to leave, and they landed in our classroom, and literally, the teachers. Just the shock, thinking about it, the shock on their faces of having all these youngsters. They'd never come across people like this before, never seen, this group of Asian people. And they had to teach them because they had British passports and they had to come here. And later working with people who came in as refugees. And people who'd taken long journeys. Long journeys.
And all of those, you then have, when the jobs which we've done, we'll have worked with many youngsters who were experiencing mental health issues,
Yeah.
which often were not and are not seen as mental health issues in the classroom and in the school and in the settings they live in there. In the broader sense, these will be people, youngsters, especially lads, who are seen as they've been aggressive lads. They've been aggressive.
Just behaviour.
Black boys or aggressive Asian boys or aggressive Somali boys. All those sorts of things will be sort of coming to the fore there, and it's important to think about the backstories. In how we, because it relates to us as well, and you can't just simply be thinking about yourself and how it's been, but you also got to be thinking about how it is for other people.
But then, as educators, then how do you factor that in, considering that you have a classroom of about 30 children? How do you factor that in to say, I know so-and-so is struggling, I know so-and-so's background is traumatic. How do you because sometimes it makes me question, the educational system, the construct of education, as sometimes, you can't really just bunch.
You can't. You have to. I mean, you have to know how to see people, listen to people, and you set boundaries. You have to set boundaries. You have to set boundaries that people understand.
But those boundaries,
whatever age they are, and it can be done.
It can be done. It has been done. And I think the notion of boundaries shouldn't be seen as a negative. I mean, anyone who's raising children knows that you have to set boundaries. You set boundaries because it also enables people to actually affect relationships. Affect relationships where, for instance, you can begin to get to know that person as an individual, because it's only by doing that you can begin to get some understanding. Someone's got to have trust in you to be able to share with you.
But this is the question then, because for me it's like, I know, like, if you are coming to a new place of work, usually there will be someone who will, especially in the education, sort of like in schools, there will be like some well-meaning educator who will probably pull you aside and say, so you are going into this classroom, look out for the so-and-so, for so-and-so, and so-and-so. They're problematic.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, that isn't a good thing. I mean, because what you should be doing if you're doing that, you want to talk about the individuals, and you don't want to problematize these youngsters there. You want to be talking about them as these are youngsters with X, Y, X, Y, Z. But you need to get to know them. Teaching, like most of what we do, is about relationships. So therefore, how do you want to develop a relationship in any course of life? Your interaction is about a sort of like, I go back to this trust between one another, that you've got to feel as if there's an honest dialogue taking place. And in that honest dialogue which is taking place, and it can be done with with the 5-year-old. Your 5-year-old knows if you're being honest or not.
Your
2-year-old
does. Everyone's got a brain in there. Everyone has a brain. And just being able, and it's, for some people it's not easy, but it does take work. It takes work in being able to listen to people and to communicate with them and to speak the same language.
That's it.
And once you've mastered that, people know, because people, they see your body language. Positive body language carries a lot.
That's it.
You have good body language, and half of it is done.
But you also said as well, Corinne, there about listen. Because if you listen as well, listening to another person sometimes can actually be, I think, can be quite disconcerting. Because you might have to hear things which are about you as well. Which isn't easy for any of us in any aspect of life. There, to hear something being fed back, whatever it might be there. Now, let's say, for instance, you make me feel like this. Now, even if you disagree with what it is, to hear that person is saying something which they don't feel that you make them feel good. Yeah. In fact, you make them feel bad. You made them feel bad on that particular instance.
Yeah.
Is a really hard one to hear. Now, we know that if we were talking about if our children, grown children, were feeding back to us in that big broad thing, you made me feel like this when I was growing up. Yeah. I tell you what, it would rock you. Because to get to our age there, what we want to think is that actually that they'll look back on the great scheme of things of being raised by you, and they think, oh yeah, we had a great childhood.
Oh yeah.
Realistically, children are different.
Yeah.
And they have this certain thing that surrounds children, and they're kind of stand on their own. You know, you can put them to kind of one side.
Yeah.
To you know, the rest of. Yeah.
So now that you left the education space, but now within SACMA, there's a lot of creative work that you do outside your work. What is your role within SACMA? Because
my role within SACMA, I mean, I joined SACMA. I joined SACMA as community outreach.
Oh, okay.
I was a community outreach worker, which then morphed into housing support.
Oh, okay.
Which then I now do groups and activities. To be honest, I've done groups and activities from the very beginning because that's my bag. I think I had one job description. I don't remember signing too many different job descriptions, but I can live with that.
Yeah.
Because I know, SACMA as an organisation and as an ethos,
yes,
they have certain values which I brought into.
Yes.
And I understand, we have David Basu as the head of SACMA, and I'm happy with that. I don't always agree with David, and I'm happy to tell him I don't always agree with it. But
is this the bit you edited?
No, we're not editing this.
Because David, I agree with everything.
Because at the end of the day, David's in charge.
Yeah,
and
he's
I
in charge.
understand that, and I accept that, but I'm still going to say my piece.
That's it. No, I like that,
It's fine.
Yeah.
It sits very well with me because he communicates it very well.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I don't have a problem with it.
So the creative work then, how does that factor into you?
Being creative and allowing people to be creative when they come to SACMA is part of them communicating to us, us communicating to them, people feeling listened to, heard, having a voice, and being able to express themselves.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because there is that, I mean, I don't know much about this, but the notion then, isn't there, like art therapy or play therapy. So has it got a therapeutic element to it?
I think, realistically, it does. It does. People, it's not advertised as that, but people, and if someone enjoys reading, provide something for them to read. If people want to sit and talk, listen to something, watch something, all of it counts.
Yes.
People can go back to what they enjoyed doing when they were younger. Having those opportunities. They used to call it learning through play. But it is equipping yourself with certain skills.
It's interesting that, because I mean, and I know from your background with what you've taught in the past, where the notion of play has been quite an important aspect to it, that I remember going into one of the wellbeing sessions, so a number of wellbeing sessions, and they had things like Ludo and all these other games which used to play at Christmas time.
Yes.
And it's play.
It is play.
And then you think, well, all around this city will be clubs about play. There'll be a bridge club, which is just simply cards. Right, just play cards. You'll have all sorts of different clubs which are all about play.
Everything.
Dominoes.
Dominoes.
Play. And you know, and why should we surprise ourselves that adults want to play?
Yes.
Because play is, you know...
It's communicating, it's listening, it's sharing, it's bonding, it's maths, English, all sorts.
You see all around the world, you know, if you go to any part of the world, you can see particularly men sitting outside a coffee shop there, and they'll be playing cards, playing drafts, playing chess. People play all the time, so giving people the opportunity, adults, to play. And I think sometimes I think that I thought I've said this before, which is, I remember going to watch a football match. It was Forest playing, and I was with my son, who was about 11 at the time, and my nephew, who was about 12. And we're walking through this estate. There were all these 17-year-old sort of lads, black lads, on bikes. And they were just causing trouble, really. No way describing it. And as we were walking through, my son and nephew said, why are they making such a noise for, and swearing, all that sort of stuff. And I sort of said, they're just bored or whatever. And what I was thinking in my mind was, they need to be in a football club or a sports club. That's what they need to be. These lads need to be in something where they are playing, doing organised sport. And I've mentioned about my brother a number of times, because around that same time, he then joined, he became a manager of his son's football team, which is part of Nottingham Cavaliers. And Nottingham Cavaliers has been around for a long, long time. And they've got about 10 teams. And, you know, the people who run that, so it's a Blackawk-led sort of sports club there, they have all these different levels, each different year groups there. And you think, this is fantastic, because, you know, they're getting these young men out to play football, to be a part of something there, to be led and nurtured by other elders. And to play is so important, when we need to acknowledge the value of play and give people as much opportunity as we can about play, I think. I
mean, I think there's that whole thing of, you know, we're children of the 60s and 70s, and it was a baby boom. You know, we grew. I was just thinking that I only ever knew one child. There was a girl who lived opposite us, and she had no brothers and sisters. It was just her. She's the only one I ever knew there was just one child in the family. Others, there's a family up the road, there was 11 of them, you know, and then there were 5 and 6 and whatever. But all the kids, we learned how to get on with each other and fall out with each other.
Plenty of falling out.
You know, and make friends again. And we didn't have adults telling us how, what, when, why to do it, because they didn't have time. They did not have time. We learnt to play ourselves, and we'd go off and play and do stuff. And you know.
And are you saying therefore that play today? Because when you take, I've got grandchildren, you go into the park and you see children play, and you know, it's important to see children play, because often, you know, television is taken over. So you've got to get the children out of the house so they can then have play. Because that's
freedom.
There's got to play, basically. And you know, and as you say, when we were growing up, and it's everywhere, isn't it? No matter what you might have, children will make play out of the little they've got.
Yes.
You don't need much.
No,
you give them a box, they can play with a box.
They'll play with the box.
In fact, that's what they're getting for Christmas, a box.
Because
3 boxes.
Take the box off the cat. Forget the cat. That's for the kids.
That's for the kids.
I won't even wrap the box up.
So I mean, because one of the things that I have always been fascinated with also is your fashion sense. Because I think you're one of the most fashionable people, you know, like...
It does flattery as well on
No, it's not flattery. Well, no.
Yes. No. He's never said it about my dress.
No, come on. No. No, but that's the thing. It's like, I think it's you and Shelley. Your guys just exude this thing. It's just fashionable. It's just different. I mean... Is it part of the your sense of creativity, or it's a conscious thing?
Probably. I don't know, like, we were brought up to be clean and tidy, weren't we, Donald?
Yeah, we were. I mean, Saturday morning, you're not going anywhere until you've done your chores, are you? You go to your mum and said, I used to go to my mum Saturday morning and say, I'm going to watch football. I'm going to go and play football. And said, Miss Senny, anywhere? And you had to make sure you did everything before you even went in that bedroom and said, I'm off to play football there. Yeah. So yes, you're right. And I always notice your shoes, and I mentioned your shoes.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You're a shoe person, aren't you?
I don't think I am, really. I really don't think I am. But my dad, when he was in Jamaica, he was a cobbler. So he made shoes. We've always had good shoes. Yeah. And my dad said he would always buy us leather shoes because leather shoes will last you. You can have a pair of shoes and you look after them, 15, 20 years they could last you. But I always check shoes underneath.
Yeah, but shoes, they are, I mean, I got told once, and I've never really kept up to it myself, is that people can buy a really good suit and ruin it by poor shoes. Yeah. You have a really good suit and then you've got poor shoes on your feet. Yeah. Yes. That don't look good. Whereas you turn it over around, you've had a really good pair of shoes and just ordinary, you can look good.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know that maxim, but I don't live up to it.
You don't live up to it. No. Because I remember, actually, I remember recently, I was talking to another friend of mine. He says, oh, yeah. Because people know, I mean, they still remember you from college and stuff, Donald. And they're like, oh, yeah. We saw Donald, one evening. He was just looking dapper.
Looking dapper.
I don't know where it was going because I don't know. Dapper's never been my name.
But no. Because no. But when I see you, usually like in events in the evening and stuff, with your head, your signature head, which I like. I am yet to find one that can fit me. My head shape is not for heads really, except like these woolly heads which I wear in abundance. But yeah, I think there is a sense of style that I think probably has disappeared now. Because for us, I mean, I remember I'm not really a suit and tie kind of guy, or but I like a good waistcoat and the shirt, once in a while. Tie, I'll probably struggle.
Used to wear ties all the time.
Yeah, but it's a generation.
It's going now, isn't it? All of that. It's going now. So a formality. There's an informality about dress now, which I've not caught up with. Yeah, I can do informal, but I can't do that informal smart, which seems to have arrived. And I'm trying to get back into, because actually now and again you get little bursts where you think, I won't mind a bit of a new outfit.
Yeah,
which is a nice feeling, isn't it? Yes. To get a new outfit there, it makes you feel fresh and a bit invigorated. And again, keep going back to this idea about you being a bit older. But actually, you want to feel fresh, and at whatever age you are, you want to feel a bit of invigoration, a bit of freshness as well. And sometimes a new outfit can make you feel like that. You think, look, I quite like the way I look today, or whatever it might be. And that's a nice feeling to have, I think.
No, it is. Yeah. It is.
And I like this idea myself. This for me, and I like it in terms of my well-being, which is sometimes I want to have this sort of feeling of newness about experiences, whatever it might be, of when I was in my 20s. And sometimes like a new type of conversation, or you meet some new people again, and actually, it's great. Do you know? And then you see a connection. They know so and so and so and so, and that's that's something I've actually got from SACMA.
Yes, reinventing yourself.
Yeah.
You reinvent yourself. There's this thing of every few years I reinvent myself. And I'll, kind of have a different look. It's kind of good.
Yeah, what are you wearing this year?
It's kind of,
because you don't want to be stuck back in 20 odd years ago, do you?
You don't. You don't.
So if you were, I mean, like to kind of wrap things up, if you had the opportunity to talk to your 15-year-old self, both of you guys, what have you learned over time that basically you think would have benefited you in that era?
50-year-old self.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Life is for living. And I think, take as many opportunities as you dare.
Yes.
I don't think I could say it better than what Corinne said there. I think from being this quite a scared young adult, that worry yourself less about what others are thinking, and just be the best self you can be. You know, so rather than feeling, well, what will X, Y, and Z person think? And someone said to me, you know, they're not worrying about you. They're too worried about themselves.
That's so true. And learning to trust yourself. Learning to trust yourself. Just take that time to, you know, kind of know yourself and trust your feelings and things. Yeah,
that would be yes. It'd be a good question.
So what is your thing? We usually end up with that. You know, what's your thing? What is that thing that you do to, you know, for your mental wellness, for that thing that puts you in that space of zen?
I think. Do you know what? My cup is. I'd like to think my cup is more than half full.
That's your perspective.
Yeah,
a good perspective to have.
Yeah.
As I say, mine is walking.
Yes, as well.
I walked all the way through town today. I was trying to find a shop.
It was open.
Which was any good. but I tell you what, on that idea of my cup is half full or more than half full, when I've been walking around town recently, what I have noticed is, it is improving. Physically, it's quite an attractive place. There's some lovely buildings in this city centre, and I like the physical structure of it. So I get a lot of joy just simply walking around it and seeing it. And, you know, I walked up Lee's Yard.
Oh,
Lee's Yard there. And it was beautiful.
Lee's Yard, where is that?
Yeah, that's just opposite where John Lewis used to be. When you come out of it, then look at the old John Lewis building, it's all like whatever. But no, I like walking, and I'm taking on what Corinne said. I try to be as positive as I can about Sheffield city centre.
I'd like the city centre back, actually.
Yes.
Because years ago, it used to look really good, didn't it?
It did.
Always had lovely buildings.
Yeah, well, I think the buildings are still, there's just not enough. There's not enough shops there. I was in Manchester yesterday, and
Bring
Manchester was like, what, teeming with people shopping. And Manchester is not as pretty as Sheffield. The city centre of Manchester is just big and whatever there, but it's got full of energy there. Sheffield city centre is a very pretty city centre, but there's no one there.
They took. It's like
Meadow.
They took the city centre away from us. We need it back.
So positive. Our cup is half full.
It's true. Yeah, I like that. So, you guys you ready for Christmas?
No, it will come.
It will come. I'm buying some presents at the moment, though.
Is it?
Yeah, but I'd like to be buying presents in town.
Yes.
I like quite old-fashioned.
I like to, don't be sending me no wish list Christmas presents. You already decided what you want. You get what you're given, and you're thankful for it.
I've got lots of memories. I went into HMV today, and I thought, God, this looks...
HMV still exists?
Yes, that's exactly what I felt.
Yeah.
I thought, this is sad. And I remember when HMV, and that's going back 15 years or so, where... everyone being in HMV and they're buying CDs and they're buying DVDs, and that's people's presents. And this one occasion I bought some CDs and DVDs for presents, and I'm waiting for the bus, and I put my bag down and then I got on the bus and I'd left my bag with the CDs and DVDs down. So that was about £35 worth of stuff.
Gosh.
And I got home and I thought, where's my stuff? You know, when you go home and you got all your bag full of things. Where is it all?
Oh, mercy.
But I had a memory of that when I went into HMV today. And again, that's how things change.
Yeah. Oh,
we used to do Christmas shopping in Woolworths.
Oh.
Do you remember those
days?
I
remember Woolworths,
Yeah.
Woolworths, when they had 2 C&As in town. One at top end, one at the bottom end.
One down yes. You're right, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah. Oh, C&A, the place. Do you know what? I think actually in my wardrobe, I think I've still got an item of clothing that I bought in C&A.
What does C&A stand for? Was it?
Clothing and accessories, I think.
That's it, something like that.
There was a guy I used to work with at Norton, and he used to be sort of quite well dressed, and we used to call him Man at C&A. And he used to say, Man at C&A.
Oh man,
we're too old, don't we?
Hey, let me tell you, for me, it's been a pleasure. You two just walking down memory lane for me has been amazing. For me, it's just been amazing just listening to you guys. It's like I think somewhere in Europe they have this lived history thing that they do now, where instead of going in to borrow a book, you sit with somebody who is
I don't know that.
Yeah. Some places have got those.
Library.
Human library. Yeah. I like that.
Well, that's something which for our, for the, the African Caribbean community, especially, and I was going to say for that sort of Windrush generation of some people of the 80s plus, but actually, I'm saying it for our generation, our generation who were born and raised here, that actually there is quite a unique experience. And then that group which actually came over a bit older than us, who came over as sort of like being sent for, that is a real group of people who we need to actually capture, because in many cases they didn't talk about it much. They didn't talk to me. My older brother's only spoke to me about it a few times.
Gosh,
Of course, that's a wealth of experience, because like you can remember sort of like the formative years in Jamaica, and then the rest of your life here
changed.
You know what I'm saying? Because they say a change is a crisis. So on that note, thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much.
It's been amazing.
In December, when it's 4:15 and it's dark, 4:30, it's dark outside. You what? I just looked at it.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. I find that. I find the darkness harder to manage than the coldness.
Yeah, really? Let me tell you, I can deal with the cold.
The cold gets
I can deal with the cold.
No, the cold, it's been cold today, but it's been dry and cold.
Yeah,
whereas if it's wet, and it'll always be dark now. It's dark.
Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and never miss an episode. Until next time, keep those conversations going and the clippers buzzing.